What's going on? I'm Scott from Konig, and we're going to be touring my toolbox. Let's check it out. So for toolboxes, I know obviously everything is about what's in the box, but for me, a lot of the things that I use on top of this is really important. I have a small garage, so using this for assembly and actually workspace is something that's important to me. You can see I put these magnetic things on the wall, these magnetic strips. I use them all the time. They help a lot with disassembly when you're working here on the bench to be able to hold anything that's steel. Also, they can hold some tools while you're working, so you don't have to leave them around where you're gonna lose them. You know you're going to. Keep a lot of different things like engine assembly lube and different things around my area here. I have plenty of electric and air and all that different stuff. Drop lights, I have plenty of them. They're back here. So this is kind of an area that, while it's not in the toolbox, it's on the toolbox, and it's pretty important to being able to functionally work. So here's the thing. The one theme that you'll see during this toolbox tour is that I'm not a big fan of spending ridiculous amounts of money on tools. I've kind of built my whole life as a car person, buying tools as I need them and only buying things that I thought were the best bang for the buck. And you're gonna see that that theme repeats all over the place. Every man, his heart is in what's in these toolboxes, right? If you're a car person, this is where it starts. So yeah, I have these US General boxes. They've been really great. So if you're looking for a bang for the buck, there's no doubt that's where they're at. First row of sockets. Man, do I have sockets. I got 6 points, I got 12 points, I got specialty sockets. I have a lot of different sockets, but I've also been in a lot of different situations where I needed to have a lot of sockets. So that's what they're here. We got O2 sockets. We got these specialty lug sockets that have the vinyl on them. You might say, what are you gonna use with this? Well, this has been a really good tool to put in seals. So have a lot of that stuff. So, you know, axle nuts, different things like that. That's where I keep most of this stuff. Moving down here, this is obviously all the ratchets, breaker bars, stuff like that. I have a battery operated one. Again, Harbor Freight. This thing I've been using this for a few years. This thing has taken a beating. It's pretty good. So I'm good with it. Got my torque wrenches. I have a digital torque wrench that I keep over here. Got some speed wrenches that I use for assembly. So moving on, obviously this is where I keep wrenches. Got some ratchet wrenches, gear wrench stuff. I have some of the original Craftsman stuff. You'll see that there's random wrenches that have black tape on them. These are the ones I use to do my alignments. So I marked them, so every single time I don't have to go looking for the ones that I need and which size they are. I mean, look, wrenches, pliers, this is where this stuff lives, right? I got some sheet metal cutters, needle nose guys here. Here's a little tip. You'll see all my things have these little zip tie things on them. And that's because the spring clips keep the drawers from closing. So I put these little things on them and then they can go right back into their place. And I do that with every spring-loaded tool just to make sure I don't have it springing up and getting the drawer locked. So I think, well, I guess we're screwed now, right? I got, this is my screwdriver drawer. There's screwdrivers. I don't know what to say, but I will say, like, again, bang for the buck. These Sunex set I've had for a while. They're really good. They come with this little tray. They've been pretty good. I've had it for a billion years, but a regular cheapo impact screwdriver. Jeweler's screwdrivers, small stuff, big stuff, you know, random stuff. This is kind of where I keep some random diagnostic stuff. This is where you'll find things like compression testers, fuel pressure testers, timing guns, spark testers. That's kind of where this lives, right in here. TPMS tools in here. I have a bunch of OBD2 scanners that I use for different things. And this is a tool, if you do any electrical work at all, if you have to diagnose anything electrical, this thing is sick. I mean, really, I can't get over it. It's a power probe, and if you're trying to diagnose a relay, if you're trying to diagnose different nodes or anything like that, if you're into a dashboard and you're like, is the wire dead, is the fuel pump, you can trigger that right there and actually complete the loop to be able to see if that's what's going on. This is a really cool tool, and it's something that if you do electrical, you should definitely have. So again, bang for the buck things, really go for them. What I will say is this, is that there is not a tool, doesn't matter what brand, that you will not break. It happens. Listen, even Snap-on has a warranty. So These companies that actually have warranties that are pretty good, that will stand behind some of their stuff and replace it when it's broken, go ahead. Down here, you got triple squares if you're going to be working on anything European. I don't use this stuff often, but if you're going to be in the area where you need Torx or you need different stuff, you know that like you can't get, there's no substitute for it. You can't jam a screwdriver in there. You need that stuff. So as seldom as I use it, when I need it, it's got to be there. Moving down here, this is the measuring drawer, you know, for measuring. I got tape measures. I have laser levels. These are extremely useful to be able to do different things, especially if you're going to be using like chassis points or need to plot some out for fabrication. I got regular squares. I have squares, ruler squares. This is where I kind of keep digital angle finders because look, here's the thing. You use angles for everything. In fabrication, you use them. Suspension tuning, you use them. These things are kind of one of those things that you just can't replace. But just in case, I also have the manual one, so don't worry. And this is also where I'll keep things like feeler gauges, you know, different feeler gauges to be able to spec things out when you're building engines or anything like that. I got some plastic gauge in here for, you know, when you need to go ahead and check those bearing clearances. Because I'm not cool like Stefan Papadakis. He has that cool tool. I don't have it. Electrical stuff. Multimeters. This is a clamp one. I got some caps. If you've ever had any issue with the ECUs, you know that changing capacitors sometimes is in your future. I have torches here for if you have to do any soldering away from the car, test lights, soldering things. It's kind of all in this drawer. Crimpers, you know, jumpers, that crap. This is just an air drawer. I don't use a lot of air tools anymore. I use a lot of battery operated stuff, but you also have, you know, an air ratchet, air hammers and air chisels. I tend to use most of the stuff as grinding and porting and polishing. That's most of the stuff that I use now, but you know, you never know. Sometimes you need a needle scaler. I have it. It means at some point I've used them. And I will tell you the one functional piece, even when you convert over to battery, this air pneumatic drill, when you get to a point where you're burning through batteries on your tools, you'll be really happy you have one of these. Like I said, I've converted over to battery a while ago. I use more battery tools, I think, than anything else, but every once in a while, I do end up going back to some of the air stuff. Everybody needs a junk drawer. This is mine. I got some punches and different things that I don't use all that much, some chisels or whatever it may be. This is where I keep extra razor blades, deburring blades, extra batteries for everything. Never know when you're gonna need to smash somebody to the wall. This will do it. All right. So this is a drawer that I use all the time. Tons of drill bits, a lot of different, you know, metal bits here for sheet metal or changing the size of holes. Again, redundant set. I have another set. This is where all the taps and dies that I use, they're all here. I have plenty of them. I've used them for projects all over the place. Again, another tap set. These are cool. If you're going to be doing a lot of tapping and stuff like that, using this allows you to put them into a socket. Use a regular, you know, 3/8 socket so that you don't have to use the one that came with it. Some drill and screw extractors, some nut and bolt extractors. So here's what I have to say about that. If you haven't bought a set of these, don't bother. I would say the majority of success that you have with those things, they're pretty low. This is a cool little thing. I don't use it all that much, but if you need to do any sheet metal work or you're cutting sheet metal, you have to follow shapes or different orientations. This thing will do it. It's a nibbler. Not that kind of nibbler. But they're pretty cool and they do work out. I don't use it that much, but when I have had to use it, especially if you're doing things that are not in straight lines, this has been pretty cool. So they're not expensive. You can get them on Amazon. So I don't have a referral link. I'm not that cool yet, so I can't give you one. But I have more wrenches here. These are the stubbies. I don't use them all that much, but when you have an area you need them, well, they're here. Again, I also have a set of these Sun X kind of weird angle ones. again, if you're working in engine bays that are tight, if you're working underneath cars where you have to get to certain bolts and you're limited by obstructions, having some of these sometimes can help you out of a jam. So I do have a set. So for those drum brakes, I have some brake spoons and different things like that. I have a, one of those spreaders here, a pad spreader here. This is the pad spreader you're going to use when you get to a point where you have those Brembos or multiple side pistons. I got one of these cheapo different caliper winding tool things in here because I ended up having a couple cars that I've played with that, well, this little adapter wasn't going to cut it. So this is the tool that you would use for stud installation without messing anything up. Yes, I know you could probably use a stack of washers, but this is the one you should use and it's not that expensive. So, and a flaring kit, because if you've ever had to make any of your own brake lines or anything like that, this is the thing you use. I don't use this a lot because the truth is I don't build hot rods or resto mods, but the couple times I've done any work where I needed to build anything like that, hydraulic lines, hard clutch lines, this is what I've had to use. So I've used it a few times, but only a few times. So this draw, what can I say about this draw? So AC manifold gauges, don't let these deceive you. I have never successfully fixed anything AC related in my entire life. I've tried so many times, and I filled up a lot of systems that ended up leaking probably weeks after that. But for the most part, yeah, I can't say I've ever been really successful with these things, but I have a set. So whatever that means. UV light, this is good if you put dye in the system so you can find out that your system is still leaking when you can't fix it. That's pretty important. Bunch of AC hoses, spring compressors. Look, if you do suspension, you know that at some point you're going to need them. I do have a bunch of these different adjustable forks and different things for ball joints. Don't use these. If you can get away with not using this stuff, don't use these. These things are, you destroy the ball joint in that boot every single time. But what I will say is this tool, you've seen them, Honda had a specialty tool. You can get this cheapo guy at Harbor Freight. This thing is really awesome. If you can use one of these, go for it. You basically essentially put this underneath between the ball joint or the arm or whatever and the actual ball, and you just tighten this nut down and it pops it free. Now, I'm not telling you that I don't understand that you can look for that perfectly flat spot on an arm and smack it really hard with a hammer and the thing just lets go. But let's be honest, that doesn't really work for me every time. In fact, most of the time it doesn't. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me, but I can't get it to happen. That tool seems to do it. This cheapo crap, I've used it for a few things. I don't really like to use it all that much. I have another set in a different area of ring compressors that are hard and fixed per bore size, but they're expensive, so I only use them when I'm building specific engines, and I don't build a lot of engines nearly at all anymore, so whatever. But I keep a generic one in my toolbox, and this is the kind of the kit, this ring compressor kit. I have them for just different size projects. It happens. Sometimes I get different size things, or I'm helping somebody or whatever it may be, and I use these as a generic. But again, if I'm building a lot of the engines that I know how to build and I've built before, I'm using the hard ones that I don't keep in this box. Let's see. This tool is pretty cool. If you're going to be doing valve stem seals, this is a way that you can use it and take those retainers and everything out with the head still in the car. You got to use a way of inflating or putting air into the combustion chamber. So usually a leak down tester will help with that, where you actually push the valve out with air. But then you can take the seats and the retainers out, change the valve stem seals. And I actually have a tool in one of the other drawers that is the valve stem seal pliers. So you'll see that down there. And I'll be honest with you, I have never used this in my life. I don't even know where I got this thing. I have a ball hone somewhere, and I use that when I have to do a little puff hone fix. I've never used this. I don't even know why I don't just throw it out. All right, so moving on here. This is a drawer I use pretty much every other day of my life. This is where I do have a hammer drill. I only bought that for one reason. When I was getting the lift, I had to test the concrete depth, and then I found out that because I was going to be using a freestanding lift, I didn't need to do that. So I still own the tool. It's there. I don't really use it all that much. Sawzall, battery operated Sawzall, plug-in Sawzall when you're going to be doing those extra long cuts. I have grinders and cutoff wheels. I keep two of these guys. One is a sanding disc, the other one is a cutoff wheel. They're exactly identical. They use the same batteries. If you do a lot of fabrication, you'll know exactly why. You don't ever want to stop to start changing discs or whatever it may be. So having both of these things in the box and being able to put a battery into each one of them and use them simultaneously, it's a pretty big deal. It saves you a lot of time. All right, so we've done the majority of the toolbox stuff, but there is one more box. Obviously, as we move around the garage, I have tools all over, right? I have some hammers and some different things, and if you want to check out the rest of the garage and the tools that I have around, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel if you're not there already, and check out our garage tour. I'm gonna do a garage tour of my garage and let you know what's going on. But there is one more toolbox, and that is the box that I have here in the back. Toolbox, but you know, still. This is where I keep everything I need for wheel and tire stuff. This has air fillers. I do have one at the front of the garage, but I also keep extra valve stems seals when I need to change them out. I keep plug kits because my wife is really good about finding the nails, and I can't say I'm bad at it either. I find them too. This is the consumables drawer. Listen, if you do this stuff, you know what I mean. You need to have consumables. I got diamond discs, I got metal cutoff wheels, I got flap discs, I have belt sanding things that I use, plenty of Scotch-Brite pads, you name it, I've got it in here. Stainless steel brushes. This is the stuff that I use every day when I'm making stuff. So if you don't have a readily stock of it, there's a good chance that you'll be searching for it. Let's see, gear pullers. This is where you keep all that stuff where you need to pull different gears. You need to be able to pull crank pulleys off. You need to be able to pull, you know, steering wheel hubs, whatever, wheel bearings. That's where you're at. Grease gun. I have a pneumatic grease gun in there, and this is where I keep that cutting ease for this guy. Yeah. Bunch of different plugs I keep. I'm kind of a hoarder when it comes to certain things. When I take apart harnesses or cars, before I junk the cars, I usually clip a lot of the plugs off of. I put them in that drawer. Different wiring stuff. I have different looms, different size wires. This is where I keep like 0 gauge wire, different things. A lot of 4 gauge wire, a lot of 10 gauge wire. This is stuff that I'll use to make grounding kits or fix things or whatever it may be. Again, utilizing and kind of saving things as you kind of go through different projects can really help you with other projects without costing you a lot of money. So that's it. We have toured my toolboxes. Now it's time for you to get out of here. Thanks for hanging out with us, and I'll catch you on the next one.